Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. I'm Nicole, and I'm so glad to have you here today. We are running with scissors just like we do every Thursday, and we are going to have a great time with all of our fun projects for the month. I've been working on some amazing stuff, and I know you guys are just going to love it. So as you are joining in, please do say hello and tell me where you're from if I don't know already. Hello to some of our regulars that I've had out here for for over a year now. And we've been having a great time creating projects and doing fun stuff with stamps and all sorts of great things. I've got a really cool topic this month. We're going to be using background stamps to create some really neat looking projects. I've got all sorts of techniques jam-packed into just this first card, and I think you guys are really going to love it. Like I said, if you're new here, do pop in a little note and just say hello and tell us where you're from. And we're going to get started here with our project in just a minute. I've got a few cards to share today and a couple of announcements. So let's start with the announcements as folks start to hop on to the chat. And I see we've got folks out on YouTube. If you're out on Facebook, welcome as well. You're going to see comments flip-flop back and forth between both sites. So you'll be able to see the comments no matter which channel you're on. All right, so let's see. My volume is very low, says Anne. Very interesting. I see that it's kind of, why is it low? Let's see. That's correct. I see that it's not like, does this sound better to you if I get really close to it? I'll wait for a quick reply there. Okay, Paula says, thought it was just me. Oh, maybe we're having, every once in a while we have funky issues. So let's see if I can fix this. Stand by. Okay, because I see like when I'm looking at my little decibel meter, it's definitely telling me that it's not as loud as it could be. And your volume's up all the way. Okay, excellent. Good. That's good to know. Becca, you're so cute. I love that you do that. We're having some audio issues where it just doesn't seem loud enough today. So give me 1 second here. Just unplugged and replugged in my microphone. And we had a problem with this probably about a year ago. Wouldn't that be funny? And I don't remember what I ended up having to do to fix it. So stand by. One other thing I can do. Okay, so is that better? Let me know. So like I said, as we are getting started this month, we are using background stamps, and we're going to be doing them in some really cool and fun ways. Today, I've got a couple of different ways that we're going to highlight the background stamp, and it's going to be a ton of fun. Okay, so Becca sounds okay. Much better, much better, much better. Okay, great. I just had to raise the gain on that, so hopefully we don't have any other problems. I'll have to check it later, make sure that everything is good with my microphone later. Okay, so hey, we're good. Yes, as long as that's the only technical problem we have, then that's a success for the day, right? Because we're always fighting technology. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of announcements, and then we'll look at some fun cards. So same announcements as last week. If you weren't around last week, this is just a little quick update for you. Of course, we're using cool techniques with background stamps. Today is going to be really fun. I always appreciate your support by using my affiliate links. So what that means is that when you use the links down below to shop, I might receive a small commission. That's always at no additional cost to you. And it's a great way to support all of the crafters out in this, in the crafting space. A lot of us are affiliates, and it's a nice way to just say thank you without having to do anything extra. You're just going to do some shopping. So pick a link and shop with one of us. All right. And of course, the Bloom crafting community. It is coming soon, and I'm really, really excited. I'm working a little bit on it every day, and I'm really excited about what it's going to bring to the crafting community. It's a lot of things that I think are missing, and I'm really hoping that it becomes an amazing place for all sorts of crafters. So if you are not on my newsletter list, click on the link down below in the description. If you're on Facebook, you're going to want to pop over to YouTube and just grab that link. Or go out to my website, pixelmavensretreat.com, and click on the subscribe button and just make sure you're subscribed to my newsletter. All right, so that's quick for announcements. Let's take a look at some cards. All right, so last month we wrapped up our mix and match month, and Cece shared some works in progress, and I asked her to definitely post pictures when she was done. I was so excited to see the halftone paper print from Altenew in use, and I love what she did here. She used a different happy birthday sentiment, but she got the celebrate on there really nice. Repeat stamping is gorgeous on that, Cece, so I'm really glad that you gave that a try because it turned out amazing. And I just love everything else that you did with this. So gorgeous. And then as a bonus, she did a deviation from that. And I think this is fabulous too. So she created her own little background, I think. And then she did some more repeat stamping and added in a flower instead of the circular image. So a real nice riff on that project. And I think it's fabulous. So thank you, Cece, so much for sharing. Absolutely gorgeous. And then we had another sharer, and this is Becca. She shared over on Pinterest, and I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see this. So she was inspired by last week's projects, and she did some ink blending, and then she did some stamping. On one of them, this one here, she did a shimmer ink, which is really gorgeous. I love the way that looks. I bet you it's even better in person with all the extra shimmer on there. And then this one down here, she did a kind of emboss resist. So she did the background and then she embossed the image. And then she used a water lifting technique to pull the ink out from inside of the flowers. And I think that is just gorgeous. You did a really great job on that. And sometimes that can be really difficult because if you put too much water in the paper like that, a lot of times it may want to try and pill up, but you did a great job and it looks awesome. So thank you for sharing. All right, so as always, when you share your projects as you're inspired by what we're working on here on the live stream, go ahead and tag me at Pixel Mavens Retreat, or you can send me an email with your projects or a link or whatever you want to do to let me know that you've posted out on social media, and I will find it and share it right here on the live stream. If I happen to miss it, do just drop me a note. It's just an oversight, or maybe I just missed the tag altogether. So sometimes that happens. And just go ahead and let me know, because I want to make sure that I am out there sharing all of your amazing work. Okay. So I did not go through and look at all of the sharing from last month. So the bonus to sharing is that I always give away my cards to those that have shared. I did not go through the whole list of everybody that shared last month, but I think I've got enough cards to send all of you at least one card. So if you shared with me last month, you will be getting one of my designs. And if I don't have your mailing address, I will let you know, and I'll get that from you and go ahead and send you a project. All right, so let's take a look at today's project so you can all start to get inspired. There it is. All right, so you saw it on the little preview image for the live stream, and it's gorgeous. So this is all from My Favorite Things stamps, and we've got this coral background that I did some ink blending on, and then the beautiful hummingbirds that I did some Copic coloring on, an embossing and an embossed sentiment. And this is all, look at this, it's all glossy, super glossy everywhere. And I'm going to show you how I did all of that. It's so cool. I really love this project. And it's got the Copic coloring is a really interesting technique. So let me, I'm going to flip to my new side view to show you this, because this is kind of the best way to see it. Okay, so these guys I did with Copic markers, and I did no line coloring. But then I came back and did white embossing over it. And I'll talk a little bit more about why I did it that way when we get to that. All right, but you see it, look at all that gloss. Oh, it's so awesome. It's fabulous. So, and it's not as hard as you think. So let's go to the hands view and we can get started. Okay, so it's gonna, there's a lot of little steps in here, but you can totally do this. You take it step by step and you won't have any problem. Okay, so let me step that off to the side because we don't need that right away. All right, so the stamp sets that I'm using, they're all listed down below with affiliate links. So we've got Happy Hummingbirds stamp and die set. All right, and I wanted to pair it with a different sentiment, something different than what came with this. So I have this sentiment stamp set. This is called Friends Like Us from My Favorite Things. And I love these because they're a little snarky and they're totally my friends. So I really liked all of these. Okay, and then the background stamp here, it is called Coral Flair. All right, and it's really cool. So a lot of the MFT stamps that are background stamps, I think they all come as red rubber. All right, so if that's a surprise to you, now you know, and I'll show you how to use your MISTI if you've forgotten how to use your MISTI with red rubber stamps. Okay, we're going to start with this. So let me just put that off to the side. Move a few things out of the way here. I have so many things. I have like this little bin right next to me because I've got so much stuff today. So totally, this is something that you can do with any background stamps that you have and any other little stamps and sentiments that you have. So don't feel like you need to get this stuff. If you are compelled to because you really like it, that's awesome. I encourage it. But you know, I always like you to use what you have. Okay, so I'm starting off with a piece of watercolor cardstock. All right, and I've got my large MISTI here. I have all those other supplies like up and around and everywhere. All right, and because this is a red rubber stamp, you want to make sure that you're taking all your layers out of your MISTI. So you want it to be just the plastic backing here. And then I've got my stamp and it's going to go right on top. Now I did, this piece of watercolor paper is larger than what it's going to be in the end, and that's fine. And actually it works out well because I can put my magnet up here and hold it in place and still stamp. Okay, and when you put a large background stamp into your MISTI, a lot of times you're not going to grab the edge. It doesn't always come up to the edge. So it's a good idea to cut a piece of cardstock larger than what you're going to need because you're going to end up wanting to cut off those edges anyway. And you'll see that in a little bit when we get to it. Okay, whew. So much going on here. So we are going to emboss this in white, okay? So it is watercolor paper. I'm going to put down some anti-static powder. Try to keep that out of the way. We're going to need that again. And I'm just using my Versamark. Now, watercolor paper always has a bit of a texture to it, right? And when you're doing embossing, you want it to be a really good coverage. So make sure that your embossing ink is really inked. Re-ink it if you need to. And then also, you're probably going to want to stamp it twice. All right, so let me stamp this twice. Just to make sure I have good coverage. If I was stamping this, embossing this in black, I would probably be stamping in black as well, just to make sure that I had a really good coverage on the image. All right, the good thing about this though is that with the foam backing on here, I can press pretty hard and make sure that I'm getting good coverage. All right, we're gonna need our Versamark again shortly. But I think that's it for the big MISTI, because I can do everything else with the small. So I'll move this all out of the way. All right. And we shall heat emboss. Okay, so Roberta asks, what am I using for anti-static powder? It is just baby powder. I used to use the little pouch, but there were times when I got ink on the pouch because the ink wasn't, like I was trying to do a technique where there was ink already down. So my pouch got ink on it and then it would transfer onto my next project. I was not happy about that. Then I tried that little container thingy with the brush on the end of it from We Are Memory Keepers, and it kept clogging up. and I didn't feel like I could get enough powder out of it. So I dumped all of that powder and then added some baby powder to just a container, and I've just been using a container and brush since then. And I really like it because I can put on as much or as little as I want very quickly. All right, once the baby powder is gone though, I think I might switch to cornstarch. And I don't know if there's really a better choice for that. Okay, so this, oh, you can see that. Look at that. So this is white on white, obviously. And you see how there's like a little edge down the side here? And there is an edge on this side here. That's because that's where the stamp doesn't touch anymore. So like I said, it's good to go for a slightly larger piece because I'm going to want to cut those edges off. They'll be really obvious once we get to inking this up. Okay, so I need to heat emboss this. Okay, Becca, be safe. Hey, Becca, don't watch and drive, all right? All right, so I just want to make sure that I get this all heated up. It takes a little bit. All right. So now that is all heat set on there. And now you almost really can't see it. There you go. Because it's that white on white. It's really hard to get the camera to pick that up. Right? But it's all done. And you know what's really nice about that stamp is that it's got such fine lines on it that when I emboss that, I really got some really nice fine lines. Okay, so I need to grab a few things here. I totally forgot. Okay. So we did some ink blending last week, and we're going to do some more ink blending this week. We are doing Kitsch Flamingo, Fossilized Amber, and Seedless Preserves. So it's going to go like so. And as you can see, like the Kitsch Flamingo is going to turn into kind of a pinky orange coral. It's a very nice color. All right, so go into my my little storage here for my foams. Now, as you can see, like I don't have as many in here. I don't have as many of the distress inks. I'm growing this collection, but it's the same thing that I do with my distress oxides. This is just a separate folder, and you can tell because it's got the green on the edge. I don't have a label in here yet, but this is for my distress inks, not my distress oxides. All right, and then in the back here, I got my Kitsch Flamingo. All right, so I need to do up some little swatches and some stamping because I have some more colors now, which is really cool. Oh, and I wanted to mention, so last week we talked about this. If you are interested in the binders and the dividers and I should say the page protectors, I found another source for the page protectors, but I was also thinking, like, you don't have to have this little 2x2 deal, right? You could just create a 2x2 template and put it in a straight up 6x8 sheet protector. So it would just be a 6x8 sheet with these guys kind of broken off in a table, and you would get the same thing. If that doesn't make sense to you, I will probably do it sometime soon because I do need to add in one in the back here for the new colors that are coming out. And instead of doing it in the 2x2 squares, I'll do it in a full sheet and show you guys what that looks like. Okay, so that's that. All right. So you're going to get another lesson in ink blending. And let's... Cece, you got me thinking about that because you said that they weren't available anymore. I was like, well, I need to come up with another solution. And that's what I was thinking. Hey, that would work really well. Okay, so let me flip you to the double view. So we've got the top view here. We have the side view here so you can see it a little better. All right, so we're going to start with Fossilized Amber. And this is basically the same thing that we did last week with the Distress Oxides. So I'm going to start with the Amber and then go into Kitsch Flamingo and then Seedless Preserves. And again, I want this, just like last week, I want this to be very saturated. So I will ink up my blending foams a lot. All right, so I want to get a nice saturated color in there. All right, and then I'm going to pull it down just a little less on the pressure so that I can start getting a little bit of a yellow blend there. You see how long that took? Like not long at all. All right, so that's the Fossilized Amber. The Kitsch Flamingo. Again, I'm going to start in a white area. You want to get that full color in place first. All right, you see how pink that is? It's beautiful. All right, and now I want to move it up into the yellow so that it blends. Okay, and then I'll go down into the purple. Oh, actually, I should get just a little bit of the pink down here. It's got a little bit of the yellow in it, but I'm okay with that. All right. And then we've got Seedless Preserves for our third color. So again, starting in the clean area here, and then working our way up. All right, and then I need to come back. The Seedless Preserves is really a dark color, so it's really a good idea to just come back with the lighter color and go over the top to accomplish the blend. Okay, so something interesting that I did with my sample that I'm going to show you here. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Okay, so I kind of wanted to follow the lines of some of these corals a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is take my Kitsch Flamingo. I'm going to load it up. And I'm going to kind of focus on this little area right here, just to get more of the flamingo in that area. And then just come up here into this coral and then down here. So I'm not making this an even blend all the way across. I'm kind of loosely coloring in some of these other ones so that it has a little bit more motion. You see how that happened? How there's like, now there's a little bit more pink here instead of coming straight across in a line. And if I want to clean this up a little bit, I can come back with my Fossilized Amber and just gently nudge the colors around. All right, so now there's definitely a little bit more of a line, but there's also still a blend. It's really kind of a cool look. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing down here below with my Seedless Preserves. Again, I'm going to kind of follow a little bit more of a line. So I'm going to take what I have on here and just blend upward. Let's go all the way up into this one. I'm not looking for like perfection, but I do want just a little bit more motion. So now I can take the pink again and then just clean up these little edges here where I went over a little further than I wanted to. There. All right, so there's just this little bit of motion, and I think that makes this look a little bit more organic versus versus just kind of straight across, right? All right, so there you go. Beautiful. Okay, so that's all we need to do with the ink blending, but before we are done, I'm going to do a couple things. So this, I did it on watercolor paper, right? So why did I do it on watercolor paper? I'm going to spritz it with a little bit of water. And then just kind of let that color move a little bit. Give it a little bit of a watercolory effect. And even take a little bit of paper towel here and just do a little picking up. So that way I get a little bit of modeling. There's going to be some areas that are lighter and some areas that are darker. Now, when you're doing this, make sure that you're moving your paper towel. So that way, like if I put the pink up here, I'd start getting pink ink up here. I want a nice clean spot to go into the yellow and pick some of that up. All right, voila. Gorgeous. All right. So just a little bit of spritz. And now you can see there's like all these like little lighter spots and darker spots. It's really, really pretty. All right. Last step on our background, promise, last step. We need clear embossing powder. All right, I'm just gonna hit this with the heat just for a second. I just wanted to get some of that water to dry. All right, so now I'm going to take my Versamark and just go over the whole thing with Versamark. So this whole thing is going to be coated in clear. So this is a double emboss technique. A pretty simple one because we're just adding that clear coat on top. There's a lot of different ways you could achieve a clear coat. You could do like just a clear matte medium or glossy medium or crackle medium on top. That would be really kind of cool. Or you can do this with the heat embossing. All right, so now this is completely coated in clear embossing powder. All right. I can't do this one. We're gonna heat it up. All right. So let's go. Mm, yes. Ooh, that was like an epic embossing. Look at this glossy awesomeness that we have. And there's texture to it because the embossing powder isn't everywhere. So you see that extra texture on there? It's super awesome. Okay, so once you have your piece, you can go ahead and cut this down. I'm going to cut this down to 4 by 5 1/4. All right. I've got my piece cut down here, and this is a total saver because I made this little extra long. I'll definitely use this for another project. It'll look really awesome as a little accent piece for something. All right, so there's that. And here is this. Okay, so let's actually finish this up. I've got my card base here, and it is 11 inches by 4 1/4. And I want to stay zoomed in here. So what I'm going to do is put a piece of tape over the top here. You can do this one of two ways. If you want to do it this way, this works. Or you can, actually I'm going to use the other side of this tape to get a nice crisp line. Or you can fold it over and just make sure that it stays closed as you do it. Okay, so I wanted this to have a nice seamless look. So this is going to go on here. And as you can see, we're going to have a border, but I want it to be a colored border. So I'm going to pull out my distress inks again. Now we don't have to do the center. We just have to do the outsides. So again, I'll start with my fossilized amber and kind of approximate like where I think it's going to end. It doesn't have to be perfect. Right? And here's the great thing. This really doesn't have to be neat either. It just needs to be done if you want to do it. It will totally level up your project though if you do. All right, so this is directly on the card base. All right, and then I'll go into my Kitsch Flamingo. And this just needs to come up a little bit and down a little bit on the sides. As you can tell, this is not really a neat blending. I'm really only concerned about like the blending here on the edge. The rest of it can be ugly. All right. And then across the sides and the bottom, I need to do the seedless preserves. All right, that's it. So now we're truly done with all of our stress inks and our blending. And now I can pull off my mask here. So before you commit, make sure that your piece is going to fit on there properly. And you see how that makes a difference? Now it's got like this beautiful outline on there. Here, just back that up a little bit. And it's really going to blend that in together. All right. And nobody needs to know that this is what it looks like underneath. It's super ugly. All right. So let's Go ahead and fold that, and then we can add in our piece here. You can use double-sided adhesive sheet if you prefer, to make sure that this sticks down really well, or you can just kind of give it a little bit of a bend to put on there. Let's see. So I'll just make sure that I get this top part centered in here. And then press that down. All right, and what I'm going to do with this, I actually have a little bit of glue overlap here. If you end up with a little bit of glue somewhere and you're going to use your eraser, two things. Make sure that the ink is dry, make sure that the glue is dry, and then, I guess three things, and then be really gentle because it will like to lift up the color. So that's why sometimes the double-sided adhesive sheets make that a whole lot easier. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take one of these big guys and just set this off to the side with some weight on top of it so that it lays flat. So let me just move a few things out of the way so that can lay flat over here. Beautiful. Okay, that's part one of the project. Part two is to do our little detail dudes. So we need to do two of our hummingbirds and then the sentiment. Now, I don't know if we will get to both hummingbirds. So I just dropped the card. I already have an extra one done up here. So I'm going to show you guys how to fix some mistakes. Okay, let me go grab the card real quick. Okay. All right. So like I said, we're going to do, I wanted to practice no line coloring. All right, and this piece of cardstock is too long. So I wanted to practice, and I thought this would be a good way to do it. And I'm using these two little fly guys here. So put one over here, and one over here. That'll work out well. All right, but the problem is that I'm going to heat emboss this in the end. You can't heat emboss first because it will react with your alcohol markers and the color will actually pick up on the marker, and it's not good for your marker. So if you're going to do any embossing, do it last. Okay, so the color that I'm going to use for my stamping, I have two. Fog is a hybrid ink from scrapbook.com that I've been using for a while now, and I really like this for no line coloring. And then Hero Arts now has contour ink, and what I found is that these are both like essentially the same color. So I'll stamp one in one color and one in the other, and then you can see. Okay, so we'll do the top one in the scrapbook.com, and you do have to actually stamp it a couple of times to get a pretty visible image. It's very, very light color. See, look, it looks like there's nothing even there. So I'm going to stamp these, I think, like 3 times. I had to do the same thing with the contour ink. There we go. It's starting to pop. And I'll do it once more just to get you a good color for the video. All right, so this is the scrapbook.com one. And then the bottom one I'll do in the Hero Arts contour ink. They're both hybrid inks, and they're both just like a super light gray color. And the nice thing about them being hybrid is that when you do like a watercolor technique on them, they're not going to blend out. You'll still be able to see the line. And then of course they don't react with alcohol markers, so you can use them for both. All right, so let's see. This is the Hero Arts one. All right, and this is the scrapbook.com one. And in real life, they both look like almost identical. Okay. You really can't see that. It's really hard to see. It's like hard to be well lit and also allow you to see. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to take my my birds off of here because we are going to reuse them when we do the heat embossing. So let me switch to our split view. Not that view. This view. Okay, so you can get like an overhead view and then also a side view, and I'll try to zoom in a little bit on this side. So you can, oh there, see now you can see better. So this is the contour ink and this is the scrapbook.com ink. Basically the same color. All right. So a hybrid ink means that it is good for both watercoloring and for alcohol markers. It just has to do with the formulation of it. And so both of these are basically the same. It's an all-purpose ink. It's got both pigment and dye ink in it, but it's not going to react with water and it's not going to react with the alcohol inks. So it works really well. It dries fast. It doesn't blend so well. Like if you're trying to do ink blending techniques, I wouldn't recommend it. You can't watercolor with them, obviously, since they're meant to resist water. So they really are great for just stamping. Okay, and honestly, the only hybrid inks that I have are because I don't ever really use, I think I have some black hybrid inks too. Like the Ulta New Permanent Black is a hybrid ink as well. So I really don't have a lot of them, but some people really, really like them. Okay, so for my Copic markers, I have C1, which is, let's see what color is this, Cool Gray #1. So there you go. And then in my greens, I have 3 greens. I have BG 10, 13, and 18. So Cool Shadow, Mint Green, and Teal Blue. All right. And then I've got my colorless blender as well. And I always know it's my colorless blender because I put a piece of washi tape on it. Okay. So using the brush nib, what I want to do on the wings of these birds is just give them a little bit of a shadow. So I'm just going to do a few little flicks, very, very gentle flicks in the recesses here. All right, so very little. And then I'm going to take my colorless blender, wrong side, and blend it out. So I'm basically just going kind of right up to the edge of it and then pushing it out into the rest of the feathers. Oh, I missed one. It's almost the same color as the ink itself, the ink that I stamped with. All right, so now we've got just like this kind of faded looking look here. All right, if it was going to stay like this, I don't know that I would be super happy with that, but knowing that I'm going to heat emboss in the white, I think it's gonna, it looks really awesome. Okay. So now I'm going to move into the bird, and I'm going to start with the mint green. Mint green. All right. Where do I want to put that? There, so you can see it. Okay. Now these little bits here, I'm going to color in very carefully. I'm not doing any blending here. Do you see that? I'm just going across those little bits there. All right. This is the point where if you wear reading glasses, you might need them because you kind of need to see kind of close up. Okay, and then I'm going to grab this guy down here. All right. And then I'm going to take my BG10 and I'm going to do some flicks into the rest of the tail here. And take my colorless blender and just blend that out. All right. So then in the rest of the body, again, we're going back to the mint green. And I'm going to come up and follow that line. I'm not concerned about his eyeball at all because that's going to get heat embossed later. So it's nice. I don't have to worry about working around it or trying to draw it in or anything. So then I'm going to come up around the other side and basically just outline his little face. Now at this point, if you're like, oh my God, I can't color in the lines like this, don't sweat it. I'm going to show you a way to fix that after we do the heat embossing. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with some flick strokes here and then come in with that cool shadow and just fill everything in. And that's going to blend those two colors together. There is a lot of colorless blender in the cool shadow, so it's really going to move the color around a lot. But there's nothing wrong with that. That's just what's going to give that a little bit of a better blend. So before it dries, I'll come in and just do just a little bit of touch up. There we go. It still doesn't always look 100% great at this point, but that's okay because, like I said, we're going to heat emboss over it, and that's going to bring everything together. All right, so in the center here, I'm going to use the teal blue. And again, I'm just going to come right up on this line here. And I'm actually just going to color this whole thing in. I'm not doing any kind of shading or anything. Coloring these little images is super difficult. They're really tiny. I mean, they're super, super tiny. So don't beat yourself up if you're making a little bit of a mess. Not a big deal. All right, so the last thing that I have is his little beak right there. So you can see it here. So far, that's what we've got. And with his beak, I'm going to use a fine line pen. This is the 005 fine liner from Altenew. It's the smallest tip that they have. And I'm just outlining, and I'll color that in with the fine liner. All right. So that's the coloring. I already have another one done from the other side. So we'll just do that one. Okay. If you feel like your blend here isn't quite blendy enough, at that point you can come back in and do just a little bit more of the green, just to blend out that highlight a little. All right. That's all of our markers. So let me back out here. Whoops. I'm always going the wrong way. Yes, the hummingbirds, they are small naturally for sure. Okay, so let me switch back. Okay, so there we go. So we're going to go ahead and put this right back in our MISTI and heat emboss it. Now, definitely want to be using your anti-static powder because it's going to not only do anti-static, but it's also going to help the ink dry a little bit if your coloring is still a little wet, right? We want to make sure this is really dry because we don't want the heat embossing to stick to it too much. All right, so we're just going to Versamark the image and stamp right over the top. It should be in just the perfect place as long as you have it aligned back into your Misty properly. And not clear, but white. I'm living dangerously. I don't have labels on my clear and my white embossing powders, so I always hope I pick the right one. This is the white, I promise. All right, so see now he's got detail. All right, so I'm going to zoom back in because I really want you to see this. And then I'm going to switch back to our split view. Okay, so here is our little hummingbird. And you can see that there are some little spots here where the color has gone over. All right, I'm going to show you how to fix that. So I'm going to even, let's see if I can get even closer here. Yeah, that might be just a little grainy, but it's better for you to see it than not. Okay, I have a little palette here. This is what I'm using to fix this problem. Repeat after me. Wash. Okay, it's like I'm washing my clothes. Wash. So this is gouache. Gouache. Okay, and this is white. This just happens to be by Winsor & Newton. There's a couple, I mean, there's lots of different gouaches out there. I have a set of Holbein gouaches that are all in different colors, and one of them happens to be white. Okay, so this is really nice. You can buy it on its own. I do have some links for different ones, and then I just have some on my palette here. All right, this is dry because I've used it before, but I can reactivate it. And I've got my very tiny, I think this is my number 0 brush. All right. And so this is, it's like whiteout for artists. All right. You can use gouache for lots of different things. Painting, of course, being the first thing that you can use it for. But I'm going to use it to fix my little mistakes here. So I'm just going to take that gouache and cover it up. Now, if you start to see the color right away, that means that you have it too watery. You actually want to keep this pretty intense. Since it's a liquid, really you can just use it right out of the tube with just a wet brush, and that's actually enough water to get it to the consistency you need. So like I said, if you see the color after you've covered it, then your gouache is too dilute. So then just come back with a little bit more, or less dilute, I should say, and just cover that up, and that's there for a second. I've got this little spot on the top of his head. That I'm going to cover. And then in here, if I want to try to attempt those, which I can, that's perfect. Okay, if you feel like, if you got like a little bump here, you can just work it out. There we go. To help it dry a little more quickly. Again, if you need to add just a little bit more because it's still peeking through a little bit, you can do that. And then just let it dry thoroughly. It's just going to take a minute or two to dry. You can also hit it with your heat gun if you want. I keep finding all these little tiny spots that I went over. Sorry, I didn't realize that I had gotten a little fuzzy on you there. All right, that's all you need to do. Yes, you can absolutely use this for splatters. Absolutely. It works totally well for that. So then if you have any left over, you can let it dry on your palette and reuse it, or you can just wash it off when you're done with it and be done with it. Okay. So I'm just going to zap this a little bit with my heat gun. Okay. So now that that is dry, I can see I have not done such a great job this time with it, but let me tell you, this guy here had a ton of, like, I totally missed his little belly here, and I covered the whole thing, and you can't even tell that there's gouache there. It looks just like white paper. All right, so take your time with it and you will get a perfect result. And when you do your die cutting, it'll be like, it'll look super spectacular. All right. Always the wrong way. There we go. So that's a little trick. Oh my goodness, this card had a lot going on with it. So we're going to go ahead and, oops, wrong die cut this. And then we just need to do the sentiment and everything will be done. So if you're using gouache for fixing mistakes like this, or for spatter, a little bottle of this will last you forever. This is 14 milliliters or 0.47 fluid ounces. It will last you forever. I've had this actually for years at this point, and I'm only like down to here. All right, so a little bottle will last a long time. So we're going to run this through. CC, I'm not sure what you mean. Color it with a stamp pad. Like you can with gesso. You mean like use stamp ink and color the gouache in a different color? Yeah, I think you could. I don't see why not. There we go. And then the last thing we need is a sentiment. So the sentiment I used was, I must be wonderful to have a friend like you. There's a whole bunch of great ones in here. Let's see. Let's see if this one will fit on the piece that I have. Yeah, well, let's do a different one. All right, so one last heat emboss sesh here. Take these guys off. We're going to do, I don't know what I'd do without you. And I noticed that there's a pretty big border around these, so normally I would put it right up against the edge of my Misty, but I feel like I have to pull it away a little bit. Okay. I can't see it. There we go. All right. I cut my nails the other day, so like I can't pick things up anymore. All right, so we're gonna heat emboss this in white again. So a little bit of powder. I just realized I'm off screen. There we go. Another thing I really like about MFT stamps is the fonts. I really, really like the clean lines and the contrast between the fat and the skinny font. And I really like the way that the skinny font embosses. I mean, it is so skinny, but if you stamped it well, it looks so darn good. So I am slowly, like, totally falling in love with this company, just like everyone else that loves MFT stamps. I mean, look at that. When you emboss it correctly, it looks gorgeous. All right. So a little trick that I've been doing, so I've got that embossing anti-static powder on there, right? So I'm just going to take my damp cloth and I'm just going to run it over it real quick. And that's going to get rid of that powder. And it's going to work perfect. Becca, I have not tried the precision press yet. It's on my list of things to get for sure. So all right, so here we go. We're gonna do, there's our beautiful background, and now it's nice and flat because it was sitting underneath those blocks for a while, so it's like perfect. All right, I'm gonna pop this guy on here, and I'm actually gonna grab my T-square just to make sure that we get it square on here. All right, to glue right in front of my face, right in front of my face. Okay. So I think I'd like it to come across here. And I can just use my T-square to help butt that right up against it. And make sure that it looks right. Yep, good. Okay, so, boy, when did I share that last? Oh, I shared it in a recent video for Altenew. I should post that on my channel soon. I'm going to create some, a little stack here. So I'm just going to cut this off here. And then we'll cut everything off together. But you know how I hate it when you've got a little lip here. And I have more of a lip because this is a piece of watercolor card. And so it's a little thicker, right? So if I cut this off, then there's like this little dangly bit. And sometimes if you glue it down, it looks kind of wonky or whatever. So I'm going to take this leftover piece of black. I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on both sides of it. And I'm going to put it right behind the strip and butt it up right up against the watercolor card. And so what that's going to do is shim that out and give that a nice even layer to come right across. It's totally worth the extra effort. It's a level up for sure. All right, so we're gonna let that dry for a second, and then I'm gonna add in my little dudes with some foams. These guys don't need much. Like 3 is all you really need. You can add more if you want. So I'll pop like one here. Oh, come on. There we go. And I'll pop one like that. All right. So this should be dry now. I can come back and... So remember, you're cutting through 2 layers. It might be a little more difficult, but totally worth it. And there it is, guys. Yeah, it was a little more detailed, but totally awesome. And we learned lots of cool techniques today. So Cece, getting back to your question, yes, I think you could probably mix gouache with your reinkers to make a solid or a more opaque paint. You could also mix these with your liquid watercolors or with regular watercolors to make a solid, a more opaque color paint. So I was thinking about these with my Ulta New water brushes. The watercolor brush sets. You could use this with that reinker to make basically a gouache out of their colors, which would be really cool. So that's something on my list of things to do. So there you go, guys. And hey, look, so remember last week when we did this whole side view, face view thing, and then the face froze? Well, I did a little upgrade action, and I'm glad I did, because look, it worked. Everything worked today. The volume, we had a little volume problem, but that'll happen. And there we go. I'm so glad that this all worked and you guys are enjoying that new little take on the video. I think it gives us a little something extra. You can see a little different angle and like maybe how I'm holding my brush or whatever. It works out really well. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying that. Yeah, so in response to Becca's question about the precision press, Roberta said that she's tried it, but she doesn't quite like it for layering stamps. But Becca says she has several plates, so she loves it for layering, which is kind of what I was thinking. That would be kind of nice to have a few plates that you could rotate through for layering, and especially if you're doing like batching up a whole bunch of projects that you're going to make, then you could just have a couple different plates with your precision press and do that. So I was thinking, oh, that might be a reason to get it. So it's definitely on my list, and I'll keep you posted when I get it, Becca. All right. Yeah, and you know what too, Becca, I will tell you, my thing is over here, my palette. So yeah, you can save the gouache. It's just going to dry on here and you can keep using it, but you can do that with basically any paint. So even if you're doing watercolor paints, or well, acrylics are water-based, so technically you should be able to reinvigorate them, but any watercolor for sure. If you have it on a palette and you're in the middle of a project, just let it dry on your palette, and then when you come back to it, you just have to reactivate it with water. So I have a couple of these palettes. These are the Ulta New, I think these are the small palettes, and it's kind of nice because I can just have a couple of different projects going and I don't have to worry about cleaning them up every time. Because I can just grab a fresh one if I'm working on a different project. So yeah, absolutely. Cool. So that's it for this week, guys. Next week, oh my God, I am so in love with next week's project. So be on the lookout for the preview in the Placekeeper for our live stream. I'll have that up probably tomorrow, so go ahead and make sure that you click on the reminder button either on Facebook or on YouTube to make sure that you get reminded when we go live and you can come join me. So as we're leaving today, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. To those of you in the United States, I hope you have a wonderful and safe 4th of July. You get to enjoy some barbecue with family and friends and maybe some fireworks. And stay cool if you're in the United States, especially we're having a heat wave in a lot of places that aren't used to heat. So I hope that all of you are staying cool out there. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up on your way out if you enjoyed today's broadcast. That way YouTube knows to show you more of my content and that you're going to enjoy it. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I know I'll be crafting and working on our Bloom community, and I will be celebrating the 4th of July as well. So until next Thursday, everyone, happy crafting.